What if the global system of trade, the one held together by American power for decades, just started to fall apart? It sounds like the plot of a movie, but it might be happening right now. In a move that has absolutely stunned Washington, Malaysia has officially walked out of a multi-billion-dollar trade deal with the United States. And this wasn't some quiet backdoor negotiation. It was a public rejection that could bring the whole structure of Trump's trade strategy crashing down. This single act has sent shockwaves through the financial world, with officials from Brussels to Tokyo scrambling to figure out what's next. Just a few months ago, a move like this was unthinkable, a direct challenge to the world's biggest economy. But as we're about to see, this wasn't a reckless gamble. It was a calculated decision, driven by cold, hard numbers, and a political earthquake in Washington that changed everything. The World Trade Order just cracked. In a move that blindsided Washington, Malaysia became the first country to publicly walk out of a major US trade deal, calling it null and void. You really can't get more blunt than that. Those were the words from Malaysia's Trade Minister, Johari Abdul Ghani, on March 15, 2026. It was a stunningly direct statement that basically ripped up their agreement with the United States. No more talks, no second chances. It was just over. So, the big question is, why would any country just walk away from a deal with the largest economy on the planet? It sounds crazy. But here's the thing. Malaysia wasn't just taking a wild risk. They were just doing the math after a legal bombshell in Washington changed the entire game. Is this the first domino to fall in a global rebellion against American trade pressure? To really understand how significant this is, we have to go back to October 26, 2025. At the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, US President Donald Trump and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim signed a new pact. The US-Malaysia Agreement on Reciprocal Trade, or ART. On paper, it looked like a win-win. The US called it a landmark deal for fair trade. But for Malaysia, the reality was far more complicated. This wasn't a deal they eagerly signed. It was one they were pressured into. They had been facing the threat of a massive 47% tariff on all exports to the United States. That level of tariff would have devastated key industries like electronics, palm oil, and rubber, pillars of Malaysia's economy. With the US being one of its largest trading partners, the stakes were enormous. So, the ART deal was presented as a lifeline. Instead of 47%, Malaysia would face a 19% tariff, with some products even getting zero rates. It seemed like a win, but the price was steep. Malaysia had to lower its own tariffs, remove trade barriers, and open key sectors like energy, minerals, and telecom to US influence. One major concession involved critical minerals. Malaysia agreed not to restrict exports, limiting its ability to develop its own downstream industries. In simple terms, Malaysia traded long-term economic flexibility for short-term relief. It avoided a crisis, but at the cost of control. This pressure-based strategy was central to US policy. The idea was simple: threaten massive tariffs, then offer a better deal. And for a while, it worked. Countries agreed, one by one, forming a network of deals built on that same pressure. Then, everything changed. On February 20, 2026, the US Supreme Court delivered a major ruling. It declared that the President did not have the authority under IEEPA to impose sweeping tariffs the way the administration had been doing. In one decision, the legal foundation of the entire strategy collapsed. the administration scrambled and shifted to a different law, allowing only temporary tariffs of up to 15% for 150 days. A flat 10% tariff was introduced on all imports starting February 24th. That's when Malaysia saw its opportunity. The terrifying 47% threat was gone. Now, every country faced the same 10% tariff. But Malaysia was still locked into a deal requiring 19%. Suddenly, the special deal became a disadvantage. The logic was simple. Why stay in a restrictive agreement and pay more when leaving meant paying less and regaining control? On March 15th, Malaysia made its move. Trade Minister Johari Abdul Ghani announced the deal was over. Not paused, completely void. He made it clear the agreement was based on a legal authority that no longer existed. The choice was obvious: stay and lose, or walk away and gain flexibility. Malaysia chose to walk. The decision sent a powerful signal across the globe. Other countries began asking the same question: why stick to these deals at all? India, the European Union, Japan, and South Korea all began reassessing their positions. Deals that once seemed necessary suddenly looked optional or even harmful. Malaysia didn't just exit a deal, it exposed a weakness. The US strategy depended on a powerful threat. Once that threat disappeared, so did the leverage. Now, the US is trying a new approach, using targeted investigations and tariffs. But it's a slower, more complex process and far less intimidating than before. The world has seen behind the curtain. What we're witnessing is the unraveling of a strategy built on pressure rather than partnership. Malaysia's move wasn't reckless, it was rational. And now, the question isn't whether others will follow, it's who will be next. What do you think this means for global trade? Is this the beginning of a major shift in power? Let me know in the comments.